my name is Reverend Todd, and I'm bringing to you yet again another episode of Reclaim. Today we're going to talk about justice. We need to reclaim justice. Now, justice is a word that gets thrown around in different circles in different ways. Some people, when they think of justice, they think of, wrongs being righted in terms of crimes being committed and people serving justice. We just saw the Derek Chauvin case where people were celebrating that justice was served to George Floyd and his family, but we're also acknowledging that this isn't justice for the Black community as a whole. This is a right step in the right direction, but there's a lot more work to be done for justice to be had. Justice would have been for George Floyd to still be living in with his family. But this certainly is accountability and justice for the family in that this person is now going to pay the consequences for their sins, for their evil. And so that's one form of justice. And then you hear people talk about social justice, making sure that there's equality and equity in our country, and making sure that everybody is on a level playing field, and that everybody has the same rights and are treated as having equal value under our laws, and certainly as human beings created in the image of God. So that's that form of justice. For some, justice is something that we should be seeking after. And for others, justice is something that is a political nuisance, a political point. Those social justice warriors, all they want is to give freebies to people, and et cetera, so on and so forth. And so justice can be taken in all different kinds of ways. But let me make this clear. You don't have to be a Christian to seek justice, but to be a Christian requires that you seek justice. In Micah chapter 6, verse 8, it says, "You know, O Israel, what I want, and this is what I require of you, I being the Lord. This is what I require of you, that you seek justice, that you love mercy, that you walk humbly with your God." So, seeking justice, what does that mean? Well, it's twofold. One, it means to live rightly, to live righteously, to be a just person. You walk out. Just recently, I was buying a bottle of wine for the podcast I'm going to actually record tonight, and I went and bought wine, and I got a couple of other things, and took the shopping cart out and realized I never put the wine on the counter and paid for it. Now, a just person is somebody who is going to say, you know what? Yeah, it would be cool to have a bottle of wine for free, but that's not the right thing to do. So I went back in. I paid for said bottle and walked out. Didn't get a reward for it, didn't need to. I did the right thing and I felt good about it. That's one way of seeking justice. Another way of seeking justice is by advocating for people who are lacking in justice. Standing up for the George Floyds, the Ahmauds out there, Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and all of those, Dante, and all of those people who are suffering from injustice and from oppression. So there's living a just life, and there's also seeking justice for others. And quite frankly, if we're not doing the latter, we're really not doing the former either. If we're only content with being a good person to the people we're in contact with, but we could care less about other people suffering injustice, then we're not really living justly. We're not living righteously. So that's basically what justice is. And there's this idea that social justice and justice itself is something that's new in the church. It's the new woke thing. By the way, don't use the word woke. It's demeaning toward people, and it just does not carry conversations forward. If you're the type of person that needs to throw names and insults at people, then you're not really secure in your own arguments and your own beliefs, and that's just common logic. But what I would say is, to some, this justice thing is new. It's woke culture. It's people just wanting handouts and freebies and whiny sissy culture, as some people will call it. And they think that the Bible teaches something differently. But again, you know what I want from you. You know what the Lord requires, and that is you seek justice. You love mercy. You walk humbly with your God. Loving mercy, a lot of times people think that when they think of justice, they think of vengeance. It's not the same thing. Justice is seeking, again, equity and equality for all people, that everybody under the law, under God, will be treated with equal value. That's seeking justice. Making sure that somebody is held accountable. That's seeking justice. Judging that person, hating them, wanting to see their torture or inevitable death, that's not justice, that's revenge, that's vindication, that's retribution. They're not the same thing. So you can very much seek justice and love mercy at the same time, and in fact we're required to by God. Now, to go beyond this, what can we do as Christians to seek justice, to be a people of justice, to reclaim justice as a part of our faith, understanding it, that this is the requirement from time immemorial when God created covenants with the Jewish people and with us through Jesus Christ. Justice is something that we can live out in our lives by how we behave, by how we treat others and respect others, and by how we advocate for others. It is our duty to make sure that we are on the right side of any given argument rather than the wrong side. And too often we get caught up in our political worldviews, that we blend them with our faith, and we put them actually before our faith and then try to conform our faith to our worldviews. Here's a good example in the Bible where that happened. Philemon is the shortest letter Paul wrote in the Bible, and he writes a letter to this guy Philemon about his slave Onesimus, who had run away and evidently stolen something, and came to Paul, which wasn't uncommon, by the way. A slave could, under Roman law, if the master was abusive or the slave feared for his life, could run away and go to the master of the master, somebody who's above the master, and seek asylum. They could be given asylum, could be given freedom, depending on the charge. So that's what seems to happen. Onesimus, for some reason, wasn't feeling, safe in Philemon's home. For whatever reason, we don't know what it is, runs away to Paul, evidently stole something. Paul sends him back and demands, in nice rhetoric, demands that Philemon not only just welcome him back, but welcome him back as he would welcome Paul, to bring him into the fold as a family member rather than a slave. Now, that one-chapter letter, that one-page letter, has often been used to justify slavery. Why? Because people believed slaves, in their agenda were okay because they were serving them and filling their needs, and they were making money off of it, and they didn't want to lose that money. And so what do? You go into the Bible and you say, look, Paul didn't say all slavery was wrong. He clearly allows for slaves. Well, if you read that letter closely and you look at the context of his other letters, that's not what Paul says at all. So we need to be careful in how we interpret Scripture. Make sure that we are, yes, it's okay that some things that they say in the Bible are 3,000 years old and don't necessarily apply to us like they applied to the Jewish community back then, and we need to discern what those things are. I'm not saying we need to take the Bible as being written in solid stone, but when we do interpret the Bible, and we're always interpreting it, we better have justice at the front and the forefront of our thoughts and our meditations. We had better make sure that however we are acting in a way that God would find pleasing, not damning. And so that's what we need to do as Christians. We need to reclaim justice. We can do it in many different ways, but certainly we need to be advocates for people who are suffering from injustice. And there are many ways to do that. You can carry conversations. You can read books from other people, like The Cross and the Lynching Tree by James Cone, if you want to understand what the black experience is in this country and how white Christianity has washed over it and not even put the cross and the lynching tree together in the same sentence. And that's amazing when you think about it, because the cross was a lynching, right? It was Jesus was lynched, brought to Pilate, and then crucified. So yeah, that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that we are reclaiming justice as a part of our Christian journey. And so with that, friends, I say thank you for joining me for another episode of Reclaim, and I can't wait to see you next week. Rock on.